Yo, we're back. Welcome to the Movie Bowl. I'm Wizzo. This is my hetero life mate,
Santan.
Yo, today we talking about Kevin Smith and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And this is a big one for us.
Oh, we love Kevin Smith. Big Kevin Smith fans since we were wee lads.
Since we were lads. For me, there isn't another set of films that I correlate with high school any more than Kevin Smith movies.
Absolutely. And the fact that he kept these characters throughout different movies and stuff, and you got to see them grow and show up in different places has always been such a treat for me.
That is the thing.
I never got to lose Randall and Dante or Jay or Silent Bob or any of them. Even Holden shows up every once in a while in something, you know. So that's been something that's very, very special to me since I was a kid, and continues with this movie.
Kevin Smith movies were the original Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Before we had that, this was it. It was the first time where you were hearing about characters that you knew from other movies.
Exactly, yeah.
In his various movies. Julie Dwyer. They go to her funeral. Dante and Randall go to Julie Dwyer's funeral in Clerks. You find out in Mallrats that T.S. is the reason she died.
Yeah, she died the day before Mallrats, so I guess
mid-breast stroke, because he told her that the camera adds 10 pounds.
So what was it? Clerks and Mallrats are on the same day, or they're a day or two apart, or whatever. It's something very similar to that.
And also in Chasing Amy, when Amy and Affleck, Amy and Holden McNeil.
Oh yeah, Julie Dwyer, YMCA pool. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So they were the original universe.
Right.
And it's so amazing that Kevin Smith did that so many years before everything.
Does that make Julie Dwyer Nick Fury?
In a sense. I was introduced to Kevin Smith films at a high school party that you threw. It was at your house.
That's right.
Clerks was the first film I saw.
That's right.
And from there, it got me I have to watch all of these.
As you know, that's how wild and crazy my parties were. We were watching movies. That's what we did. We hung out.
That's my kind of party.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have it any other way. We got fucked up and watched movies.
Pretty much, that's what happened. And
so in 2001, when the first Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back came out, and I was able to see all these different characters now in one movie.
Yeah, one movie.
Not just being mentioned. Oh, that movie blew my mind.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies. So you can only imagine how excited we were when we found out there was going to be a reboot movie.
Seeing Jay and Silent Bob in 2020 with smartphones and homegrown bud and having a dispensary and all this shit. It's and getting an Uber the whole ride there. You know? All these crazy wild things. It's seeing these 90s characters in the 2000s, in the 2020s. It's that really blew my mind and really engaged me immediately in it.
Because I didn't realize how much time had gone by, because it doesn't seem like Clerks 2 was that long ago, but it was 06.
Right. Yeah, 06
in 06
was a while ago. This is 2020.
Such a different world.
It was.
And like you said,
there was no
the
iPhone
smartphone
just yet, or just maybe it just started. It's a different. They still were they still were old school Jay and Silent Bob with the boombox. They didn't have a boombox this time, it just showed us it's different now, And Silent Bob now has a way to speak, which is unbelievable with his phone. And I have to give a prop to the sound design, because I love the way his finger taps against the phone.
Do you like that?
I actually loved it. Yeah, it sounds like how my finger taps against my phone. Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up. I actually didn't think it was realistic the amount of time he took to make an emoji.
Oh,
he's doing all this pressing, and I'm the whole phone thing. I love the idea that Silent Bob communicates to a phone now in emojis, but I did actually have a problem with the sound design of him tapping. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was gonna I wouldn't have mentioned my problem with it until you gave it props.
This is it.
No.
This is it. Well, this is the bowl. It's like a versus. It's like a Super Bowl, or the Cotton Bowl, or the Rose Bowl.
We're gonna go at each other's necks a Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel.
That's it. Going for each other's. Go for the jugular.
But yeah, I did find that very clever, and you're right. A lot of the stuff that exists now, 2020, Kevin Smith as a writer was very clever in bringing it forward, for sure. And he did this within the confines of making the same fucking movie over again.
Oh yeah, there's no mistake.
Now,
and in my opinion, I'll just say straight up, it is a complete remake of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but a reboot, not a remake. Fair enough. Fair enough. And But an inferior one though for sure.
An inferior one for sure,
and not like one of the worst, and not even like, and one of the better movies I've seen recently either. That's the funny part. It's like still one of the better movies I've seen recently,
right.
But not necessarily one of compared to like any of the other Jersey Chronicles. It's not really.
When you get an artist you love so much, like a Kevin Smith,
right.
he can make something that's not on par with his other stuff, and it can still be better than half the other comic directors out there.
I laughed a lot, and that's the whole point.
He gets away with the reboot thing because that was his intention. He made no discrepancy about that. I was watching press for this, and Kevin Smith is like, it's basically the same fucking movie.
Yeah. So, like, it's not even a criticism.
Prior to the introduction of Millennium Falcon, Jay's daughter, it's the same movie shot for shot. You're opening up in the outside of the Quick Stop.
Yeah, they're getting arrested outside the Quick Stop.
This is all setting up Brody, who's going to set up the movie. Brody, inside his comic book shop, is going to give us every plot point and set up the movie. So up until that point, it's the same movie.
It's the exact same movie, exact same movie.
With the exception of the court scene. And I do want to talk about
Justin Long
reprising his role from Zack and Miri.
Right, exactly.
And I love that character. And
that was a really funny character. It's pretty.
And they wanted to get that character back in a Kevin Smith movie.
It's a good idea because like he was very popular. Because like I wasn't crazy about Zack and Miri the first time I saw it, but I loved him. That's a great movie.
My name is Dick Wolf on Grindr. It's almost like he makes these movies so he can get his viewpoints across. And Brody in that scene that we were about to get into inside his comic book shop, he's a completely talking piece for Kevin Smith's views on the Marvel films.
Absolutely. It's like it's funny how he uses his characters to say what he wants, but he still will back it up anyway. Like if you called him out to it, but I mean, like he used that as his platform. I mean, absolutely. In the '90s, his movies was his platform for getting his thing. There was no Twitter, there was no podcast,
right?
So it's interesting. He does it now in both ways. Like every medium he does it.
Absolutely. And Brody just killed it with that speech, man.
It was really good. Yeah, Jason
I live for these Marvel movies.
Jason Lee, Almost Famous, and My Name is Earl.
I really like that scene because I feel like they was drawing a wedge between what a good reboot or remakes are, and bad ones, I guess, in his own way, because they start off talking about the Star Wars movies, and there's a lot of negativity, kind of. They're just kind of little digs. And then when it comes to Marvel, and Jay's about to give a dig, he's like, I'll give you another Marvel movie. Hey, watch it.
Yeah.
Brody is like, hey, watch it. Those Marvel movies are cinematic classics.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, but a lot of them they're pretty good.
They are.
But
he definitely wanted to like draw a wedge in the sand of like, okay, there's bad reboots and there's the Hollywood paydays, and then there's these Marvel movies. These are not Hollywood. Hollywood's making a lot of money off them, but he's like, these are good movies.
Well, that's like it's a big thing. What got me into his movies was how he talked about Star Wars, like in Clerks and Mallrats and Chasing Amy. He's not even saying fuck Star Wars.
No.
He's saying Marvel is the way to connect with the audience.
Absolutely.
Because those movies are way. And I'm a Star Wars fan, but the Marvel movies are much better than the Star Wars. Most of the Marvel movies are better than the new Star Wars.
Even though I enjoy the new Star Wars better than I do the Marvel movies.
Really?
For me, but I can admit that the Marvels are better movies.
Yeah, I agree. I watch the Star Wars ones way more than
because we like Star Wars better than.
But I love I can also say though,
I'm man enough to admit that
there's no the Rise of Skywalker was not Endgame.
No.
At all.
No, it was not. No, it's not. The movie really picks up when Millennium Falcon, Millie, is introduced. Yes. So they're in Chicago, and Jay sees on TV that
Justice is on with with another favorite character of ours.
Grant
Hicks. Yeah.
You brought up earlier, Kevin is so smart with how he updated the script to fit 2020. Whereas when he first sees Justice and he has that whole fantasy, the whole scene, I just filled the cup.
Bad Medicine Bon Jovi. Yeah.
Bad Medicine Bon Jovi, and he's totally, objectifying her.
Of course.
But for 2001, it's fucking hilarious, and it's still hilarious in my opinion.
She's basically pegging him,
But in this updated version, she flips Jay around and she's pegging him.
Fucks him right up the ass.
Fucking him up the ass from the back. And I was like, yo, that's so clever how he flipped that, and it doesn't lose any humor. It made me funnier.
It made it better, yeah.
Kudos to Jason Mewes' performance and the faces he's making as he's getting banged from behind.
He killed it like he has every time he's played Jay.
So that's when, after that point, he sees Justice on TV and he knows, we got to go to her house.
Right.
So they show up at Justice's house. Lady.
Yep.
Jay and Silent Bob are in your hizzy. And you seem to be rolling your eyes. Because you also brought up to me outside of the podcast, I don't think you like those moments where they bring up old lines from the first movie.
Oh, yeah. Well,
you think that's hacky?
Well, I know, like, in the beginning, like, in the instant where he's like, my name's Jay, and this is my hetero life mate, Silent Bob. Like, I could see them in the editing room just being like, just leave an extra, like, 5 seconds for applause, okay? Because we need to hear some applause.
I'm surprised. He should have actually, you know how sometimes he
puts,
it's like
it's Mark Hamill. Yeah,
he's Mark Hamill.
I feel like that should have been there. Yeah.
He should have.
Because I wanted to applaud. I was so happy to see
I love that.
And they immediately get their asses whooped. The Dogma Demons. What the fuck, Kevin Smith, man? You fucking fooled me, yo.
Let's be honest with each other.
Yeah.
The people watching this movie and the people who are going to like this movie are the diehard Kevin Smith fans.
Yeah.
And you were saying through all the press that you're sequelizing all of your fucking Jersey Chronicle movies in this movie. So clearly our minds went to the fact that the Dogma Demons were back. And then the second I saw that, I'm like, wait, is she going to be a Dogma Demon? And as the movie went along, I realized, nah, this is just a throwaway. There was a few.
I was like, fuck, because I thought that was one of the coolest things he ever did was like the roller. Because I played roller hockey.
Yeah.
You see, like some roller hockey demons. I thought it was awesome. And the same thing like what I loved in Clerks, because I grew up playing roller hockey all the time. That was another big thing I loved about him. He obviously played roller hockey too. Yeah.
So to go with what you were saying, yes, I would bring the scope of hell into a movie like that.
Oh, I would too.
Because go balls out. Go balls
I
to
mean,
the wall. And what's the point? Strike Back is a universal movie because at its purest form, it has a very cohesive and coherent plot.
Yes.
Two guys that were the basis of a comic book are upset because a movie's being made based on their likeness that they didn't even know about and they don't think is cool, and they're going to Hollywood to stop this movie from being made. It's a pretty general plot, and it's a great plot. It's a great comedy plot. Now, this movie is not a Universal movie.
No.
Even though it has the same exact plot, the execution is not Universal.
No,
it's very sloppy. You even mentioned yourself.
Yeah, I mean, okay, and here's what happens. Like, to me, after he meets her, right, and then they leave the house, there's a big chunk of time where I'm not laughing. Like, it gets, like, really emotional in the car about all their fathers and stuff. The whole scene with the KKK, which I don't really get, which is, you know what I'm saying? Right. So, like, where it wasn't kind of funny, it almost came across as...
preachy?
Yeah, or just, like, trying to overcompensate for something. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. Klansmen are the worst.
Sure. It's grown on me, but you had Chris Jericho in the scene. What a missed opportunity. I feel like you could have given him more to do, and he was great. Yeah. But what I want to get into is, like, the plot was very... you brought it to my attention, and you're right. Jay and Silent Bob find out that Saban Films stole their name and likeness, right? Yeah. So they want to go to Hollywood to stop the movie. Right. But, like, that's not going to change the fact that they lost their names now because they signed a contract.
And they're already famous, like crazy. They've already had a movie about them. Like,
right.
So, like, I didn't even pick that up the first time I watched it. So, like,
I didn't think about that because I have muscle memory and I know what the movie's about because it's a reboot.
Of course.
But that's what we're talking about is the movie Universal. This movie is not Universal because he did not do a good job of retelling the same story.
Yeah, I totally
He really did not do a good job of that. It was almost like he knew, okay, I'm going on tour with this movie. I'm showing it to people. It's not going to be really in the theaters. It was only in the real mainstream theaters for a day.
Right.
So he's like, the people showing up to this are fans of me. But I think that was a little irresponsible and a little stupid. Because he did such a good job in the first one of telling a universal story with niche characters. Mm-hmm. And he just didn't do that right this time. And you're right that I didn't even realize it because I'm so caught up in the movie and the excitement. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's not even saying that, like, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back have the same plot of, like, The Godfather or anything like that. But it had one that made sense. They wanted to save their face because they're old school, like,
Right.
You know, and at that time, you know, you talk shit about someone in those days, you get punched, you know, and like it's a different world now. Everyone trashes everyone on the internet anonymously now. It's
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah.
And which brings me to an interesting point, like, because I do disagree with you on some stuff. Where we disagree is I like when the movie becomes its own. Once you're introduced to her and her friend, Soapy, she is obviously another 2020 take on Silent Bob.
Yeah, and I think she does like a really cool, like, homage to Silent Bob and kind of does her own thing.
Yes, when she talks at the end. Yeah. And speaking is overrated.
And just the way she acts throughout the whole thing too.
I enjoyed her.
Yeah, I
enjoyed her.
She was a good sidekick.
I enjoyed the cast of characters they introduced, the other two friends. Mm-hmm. Even though I thought it was a good medium of Kevin Smith realizing, okay, it's 2020. Youth and diversity are a big part of what you see in reboots and films. He was able to do that and put it as part of the joke and still be classy about it while naming a character who's Arabic, Jihad.
Yeah.
I thought that was... I don't know how I even feel about that. You're making faces. How do you feel about that?
He always wants to push a button. I just feel like it's a button that doesn't need to be pushed. What was like the whole thing. But I guess it shouldn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, that girl didn't have a problem with it. You know, she found the humor in it.
Yeah.
He found the humor in it, made it to the final cut. So it doesn't hurt anybody. But yeah, I get what you're saying though. I didn't think it was funny. It was the thing. Like I don't know how offensive it is. I didn't find it that funny. Yeah.
I was still laughing during those scenes because I felt that he pushed the right button of emotional and funny. And I'll give the example. So when she says the whole story about her brother suffocating her with the pillow after the kiss.
Right.
I laughed at Jay's reaction, where Jay's like, "Fuck your brother," because I one of my favorite moments in comedies is when the laughs are not even coming from a punchline. It's coming from my appreciation and understanding of the character. And I felt that was very good acting by Jason Mewes, because that is something that I feel that character would say. He didn't know how to react to her story, so the only thing that could come to his head was to hit something. Fuck your brother. Exactly, and I thought that was such a believable reaction that it kind of gave me, I laugh at it every time, like a natural laugh. I'm going to really say something now that is controversial, but I don't think this movie should have happened during Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. I think he should have made a movie called Jay and Silent Bob Grow Up, which is also one of his podcasts. And this is where that story should have been told. But once it becomes about this, it's now about this. It's no longer about trying to stop a movie.
You kind of forget it. That's what the plot of the movie is too. Like,
because it's really not his main motive.
Hey, even when they get to Comic-Con at that point, it's not even. It's an afterthought.
I don't think that the Strike Back stuff worked nearly as good as the heartfelt stuff and the real story that happens with Millennium Falcon and Jay, in my opinion. There's something I wanted to bring up about Justice. I thought that he did a very good job with that character. Because in the first movie, she was very submissive. Jay's nickname for her is Boo Boo Kitty Fuck, and she was like, oh.
Yeah, she loves like giggling. Yeah,
she loved it in the first movie. So when she tells Jay, I never told you about the kid because you're not father material, it really elevated the character to me and made her a stronger person. And I like that she's not even into guys anymore. Maybe the way Jay treated her. She's not even into guys anymore. What I didn't like that her...
It didn't seem like she was into them before that either. Like, she's like only like... She flipped from being a lesbian just for Jay. And
just for Jay. Jay had that power on women. He was like a James Bond type.
Which is fucking hilarious too, actually. When you think about it on its own, it's pretty good.
I really didn't like that.
Because Jay gets no play in any other movie.
It's true.
Yeah. Like,
that's why Kevin wrote that.
Yeah,
I remember that in the podcast. I think it was in the commentary. He said that Jay was complaining, you never let me hook up with no girls.
Yeah, he doesn't get any girls.
So he gave him one. He finally gave him a love interest. Yeah. I did not like that her love interest, that Justice's love interest was Rosario Dawson, because Rosario Dawson is Becky.
I know.
From Clerks 2.
Yeah.
And that whole scene was confusing to me. Because on first watch, I'm like, wait, that's Becky.
Yeah. I mean, when I watch it again, now that I know it doesn't matter, and like,
why not use somebody else?
And I guess like
continuity.
To go along with the universe, the not being, I guess it is universal. Nobody would know that that's Becky. You know what I'm saying? Like,
by not executing the main plot point right. You didn't execute the main plot point right. And the main plot point is Jay and Silent Bob trying to stop a movie.
That's cool.
So as a Kevin Smith fan, you're so proud of him that he's gotten that big, that he is pop culture now. that he could play himself in a movie and it fits in pop culture. So if somebody doesn't know any of the Kevin Smith movies and they watching this movie, that may be the one part that makes sense to them.
Like, after a certain point, he didn't really care if it made any sense, though.
I think you're right.
With the movie. Which was, like, I don't know, to me, like, upsetting because, like, I don't know, it feels like rushed in or what? Like, rushed, the ending of it, you know?
Absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
The whole thing with Shan Yu, like, it really made no sense. Cool. I found her funny for most of the whole movie. And,
my issue with her is that they're selling her as a huge Blunt Man and Chronic fan, right?
Yeah.
And the whole reason the girls are trying to get to Comic-Con is for Shan Yu to live out her dream of being in a Blunt Man and Chronic movie.
Yeah.
That's what's sold to us. Yeah. There's not a one moment in the movie where we get the inkling of an idea that she knows who Jay and Silent Bob are. If she loves characters that are based on these two guys, but they didn't do a good enough job of explaining it.
Now I know, like, afterwards. Like,
right.
So, okay, the first time watching it...
two watches.
Yeah, the first time watching it, I didn't get it. The second time, I did but I think you brought it up, that's why, and I looked for it. But yeah, no, you're very right. Like, the first time watching it, I didn't get that at all.
And not just that. If you're selling to us that this movie was basically like Batman vs. Superman is to Batman, you know, the original Batman was this movie. This was a very popular movie in the universe. All of those girls, even if they didn't watch the movie, they would be aware of what Blunt Man and Chronic was. And how they dressed.
Of course.
And the real Jay and Silent Bob would have been an immediate red flag.
Right.
You know? I thought that was all very weird. And it was also very weird that it didn't come up in conversation why they were going to Hollywood to stop the movie. Like, that whole...
Because there was no reason. That's why they didn't talk about it, because there's no reason to go stop the movie.
It's funny. I had a much more positive take on this movie before I talked to you.
Yeah, I know. I think I ruined it for you. I'm sorry.
No, don't get me wrong. I still love this movie.
I loved it too. Yeah. I'm gonna watch it again.
It is a very solid entry in the View Askew universe.
Because
it does not ruin anything.
No Kevin Smith movie have I liked less by watching more of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, like, I'm only gonna, like, it's only gonna grow on me.
Put it to you this way.
Yeah.
In the universe, this movie is still 100 times better of an entry in the universe than Rise of Skywalker is as an entry in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
There was nothing to the level of offensive atrocities.
No, not at all. Not at all. Just like a few, like, what the fuck does this mean?
A few.
Like, with someone who's such a brilliant writer, and Kevin Smith
can list them
is
off.
a brilliant writer. There's like a bunch of, like, plot holes and weird things I wouldn't expect in his movie.
Exactly.
Right.
What they did do right was, as we talked about, the Brody Morats completely did that right. Holden McNeil was completely also handled correctly. And Jay and Silent Bob is still going to try to stop the movie from being made. At Comic-Con, they're filming the final scene for for Blunt Man and Chronic Reboot.
Gotcha.
And before they go into there, they meet up with Holden McNeil. And that whole scene to me is the message of the movie. He gives a speech about how kids are reboots. And that to me was beautiful. I get goosebumps just talking about it. That I really enjoyed that.
It is, because you see it, like, you know, as parents, you see, like, when my kid does something that's exactly like the way I do it. I did it when I was her age. Or the way I do something now, you're like, well, when I'm gone, at least some of my personality will still be out there.
Of course.
Like, you imprint on people, and
it's so beautiful because we know that Kevin Smith's daughter is Harley Quinn Smith.
Right.
So she's actually in the movie. He's actually putting his daughter in his movie.
Right.
So she totally is his reboot. You know, even though she's a rebooted Jay.
Right. Exactly. That's also just an analogy for their relationship too, because these movies would not have been as successful without those two people playing those two parts. If he didn't cast his friend Jay and Jason Mewes as Jay in Clerks, and and Mulder, and all, they're like the Luke and Han of all the, you know, the Jersey movies that we hold so dear to our hearts.
And it's amazing because a lot of the things in Kevin Smith movies were accidents, and they weren't original things that were going to happen. Kevin Smith was going to play Randall at one point originally. Yes.
I mean, she's really Kevin Smith's child, but in the movies she's Jay's child, so it's like, it's very cool that she really is like Yeah, it really is a reboot.
It is in every sense of the word. And it's interesting that Jay's daughter is actually in the movie. She's Affleck's daughter in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's Jay's daughter, the little girl.
Awesome.
It's amazing because Affleck wasn't originally in the movie. A podcaster had Affleck in an interview, and he actually asked him if he'd ever been in another Kevin Smith movie. And Affleck's like, yeah, if he called me. And Kevin Smith saw that, and he hit up Affleck. As we talked about also, when you're able to mix in a good ratio of laughs with the emotional scenes, you don't think they did a good job with that, but I do.
Well, you know what, it is funny because like the kids are reboots, you know, and like all this like mushy shit, and then he's teaching her how to sell drugs at the end of it. But like it's that's not even a bad thing though, because it's a Kevin Smith movie and that's funny. That's a funny thing. And that, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think it takes away from the emotion of it.
But it is ironic because he's like, don't do what I do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. A lot of the story is like, don't do what I do, and then she's doing exactly what he does. I just felt in general like I feel like all of his movies have a very emotional sense to them. Maybe Mallrats not the most, but I mean there's a lot with the relationships in that one too, though.
He's been doing it for years.
Yeah, you know, but they all have something like important in them about it, and I feel like this one though was a little less organic in this movie. Yeah, I mean this is like, unfortunately, like, whereas the scene where they're filming the movie in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is like a climactic ending and one of the funniest parts of the movie, I feel like the ending of this movie was like kind of dragged and made no sense to me. And like, you know, and it's within the confines of a Kevin Smith movie, so I'm not expecting, you know, Godfather here.
When you say,
but like I'm saying though, like I got lost like in what exactly the plot was. Is it a movie about stopping the movie? Is it a movie about being a father? Is it a movie about this Shan Yu being a Russian spy? And
that was the most confusing.
Like, and like the other two things are fine, and that's what the movie's about. But the whole Shan Yu thing, I feel like you could have wrapped up some other stuff. Could have given Dogma a little bit. You could have had Bethany walk through Chronicon or some shit. Like, I don't know.
I would have liked that.
You know, or something like that.
The ending scene reminded me of Mallrats, but Mallrats did it so much better because Mallrats is also in a gathering, in an auditorium.
Right.
But you have so much epic shit going on, like Silent Bob trying to do the Jedi mind tricks to move the videotape. Right. Now, Silent Bob. Now, Silent Bob. It's actually intense. You got the intensity, and that works. I don't feel any urgency or intensity in this scene.
No,
this is just nonsense. A lot of nonsense going on.
I want to see more.
Oh, me and this guy right here, we're addicts.
Yeah,
we want more.
I mean, you know, I thought he did a good. I thought it was a good, solid movie, and it, you know, moved the characters onto a place. You know, I would still like to have them show up. I don't know if maybe they have to be the main characters in the movies anymore. Yeah,
but and guess what? Believe me, Kevin Smith,
your
fans are still gonna watch the reboot movie after they watch Jay and Silent Bob growing up. We can't get enough of it.
No,
you could have made two separate films. We can't get enough of it.
I'm so glad you didn't die a couple of years ago. I'm so happy.
Oh, both of them.
Yeah.
Jay Mewes and
Jay
Kevin.
too. I'm so glad you're both alive. You have no idea, guys.
You're both alive and you're able to make these movies.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. Make more.
Exactly. Exactly. But when I saw this movie, it still struck me as extra emotional. And I remember I actually tweeted. I said, I knew I was going to laugh my balls off during a Kevin Smith movie. What surprised me is that I also cried my balls off. But I shouldn't have been surprised knowing Kevin Smith. And he liked my tweet.
That's awesome.
Kevin Smith liked my tweet because I guess I like to think that he understood what I was saying.
Yeah.
That I shouldn't have been surprised because I'm a fan of this guy. I shouldn't have been surprised that it was emotional.
Wolf.
But overall, I think it's safe to say that this movie is definitely on our lower end. Of Kevin Smith movies, but still an extremely solid take. It does not discourage us from seeing more of Youth Universe movies. We want more.
Can't wait.
I love this fucking movie overall. I just love him and his movies and this universe so much that I'm gonna be critical. As you are.
Yeah, but I'm in it. Like I accept Millie as a character. I want to see her back. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, and she's in the crew. So let's see what she's gonna do now.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's our review.
That's our review.
Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Movie Ball. Satana Riz is signing off.
Ciao, man.
Ciao, man, brother.